I am so pumped. The 2024 NFL season is almost here, so we'll be providing full cash lineups for week one on the main slate for DraftKings and FanDuel, and it's coming up next. Hello, everyone. I'm Eric Lay.
And I'm Michael Wiley, and we're the Fantasy Football Consultants. Eric, at long last, the season is upon us. I'm so ready.
Right there with you.
So, we've had a lot of things happen of late, and Eric, you're pretty busy. You had a lot going on. Tell us a little bit about what you've had going on.
Oh, yeah, just doing a lot of preseason content. I will put all the links to all the videos that I have done. There were fun videos like blind ranking teams and ranking top 10 running backs, quarterbacks, wide receivers, and tight ends. And we also had a lot of fun breaking down, if you want more detail from this show, breaking down FanDuel and DraftKings individual shows for each of the four positions. So if there's anyone you're like, hey, you didn't talk about them, check out our week one shows.
And Eric, I know you also did a little bit of State of the State on the show. And I know we got some feedback of late. So
yeah, we did. It was really nice, super humbling. I am so thankful for everyone in our community, whether you just joined us this year or you've been here from the very beginning. Thank you so much. Tell us a little bit about some of the feedback we got, Michael.
yeah, and I'm happy to be the one to share, because I think some of this is more for you than for me, because there's some really good stuff, and I just can't imagine I deserve it. Here's a comment from Shui Dog, if I said that right. You guys are by far the best, most entertaining, most informative, the most articulate, and the most down to earth. I appreciate that part. DFS channel in all of YouTube. I a lot of really good comments here. Another one talking about personality and our funny comments. The one I like best is the positive attitude of the hosts is refreshing, from Laura. Eric, really some really great subscribers and viewers that have been really good to us over the years. And these comments are, kind of more than generous. I'm very thankful to have been able to see some of them.
Now, thank you, folks. So with that little setup, Michael, high praise. Let's see if we can live up to it. So what we do is, this is a combined show where we're going to give you a full cash lineup on both DraftKings and FanDuel. But before we get into the system and show and make our lineup, there are, count them, 4 players that we have in both our DraftKings and FanDuel lineups. We really like them, and we really like them for both their price. And the first of those 4 players is running back Rachaad White, $6,300 on DraftKings and $7,600 on FanDuel. Here on the main slate for week one, we don't have Christian McCaffrey. We don't have Breece Hall. We don't have Saquon Barkley or Derrick Henry. So it is really nice that we still can get a running back that ticks all the boxes for fantasy that we want. We have a bell cow back in Rachaad White, who gets the goal line carries and gets very involved in the passing game. How involved? How about nearly 4 receptions a game last year with a league high 91% catch rate for a running back? And I love his matchup. He is playing as a home favorite, 23 implied total, against a pretty weak Washington defense, Michael.
Yeah, that's right. Washington, one of the worst in the league last year. And Rachaad White, a strong fantasy play throughout. And at this price tag, you make it possible for me to add to the lineup. Got to have somebody like Tyreek Hill, somebody who can really go off. If you can afford him. And like you said, some of these other guys just are not available. Tyreek Hill's 8,700 on DraftKings and 9,600 on FanDuel. Hey, last year, first in TDs, first in yards, third in targets and receptions. And the Jaguars is a middle defense this year. Really kind of nobody has the upside that Tyreek can have week in and week out, and has been a consistent producer. So we got to get somebody like this in our lineup.
Yeah, I love the fact that he not only has that high ceiling, gives you that high floor, and we attack, I think, one of the most exciting games on the main slate from a scoring perspective, that Miami Jacksonville game. That could be a real shootout. So you are going to go with Ad Hill. I'll take a Jacksonville guy running back the other way. How about tight in Evan Ingram at $5,500 on DraftKings and $6,200 on FanDuel? Hey guys, how about you can maybe win a bet for your buddies? Ask them who led all tight ends in receptions last year. They'll probably say Travis Kelce or Sam Laporta. No, it was Evan Ingram who got 114 receptions. That was, I believe, 19 more than the closest person. Why? Because he is Trevor Lawrence's safety valve. He works the middle of the field and a lot of short passes. You want to criticize Evan Ingram? Point out that he only has 4 touchdowns in the last 2 years. But there's good news on that front. Red zone hog Calvin Ridley, gone. All those red zone targets are back up the grabs. Christian Kirk, all preseason, dealing with a calf injury. We'll see how healthy he is for week 1. Really like this opportunity for him, Michael, in week 1 in the shootout game.
No, I completely agree. He is a PPR hog, and even in half PPR, he's like you say, Trevor Lawrence's go-to guy. Let's pair up another running back, somebody who you and I both really like from an athleticism perspective, somebody who's to some extent underperformed with your Seahawks. Yep, Walker the third. Kenneth Walker the third. He's 6,100 on DraftKings, 7,400 on FanDuel. So a nice little price tag. He was a top 20 running back, even though he went through a part of the season where he was a little bit banged up. And he's got so much potential. As they talk about, a lot of people think, oh, he's going to get steals from Zach Charbonnet, who, yes, will get involved in the passing game. He does not have the explosiveness. And this is, one of the reasons why, he was drafted later in the draft. Kenneth Walker is a star, and he's going up against this Broncos defense, which has just not been the same of late. And so because he's a little bit less expensive, currently, I don't know that we'll see that price tag with him very long, because I think this is going to be a breakout year for Kenneth Walker the third.
And as a Seahawk fan, I could tell you his struggles last year was not his fault. It was his offensive line just weren't creating holes. They did do a couple things in the offseason to try to address and improve that offensive line. So I'm betting with you that we see the benefits right off the bat.
So as a reminder to support us, please smash the like button, share your thoughts down in the comment section. And if you have not yet, please hit the red subscribe button.
Yeah, we're almost at 11,000. Help us get to 11,000 subscribers before the season starts. And quick reminder, we want our community to always be looking to get better at NFL DFS and NFL DFS strategy. Best way to do that is to check out our free NFL DFS Master Class. Links to all those videos are in the description. And another way to get better at NFL DFS is join DFS Hub. We are an affiliate to them. Our affiliate link is dfshub.com/FFC. What is DFS Hub? There's a reservoir of great tools and late-breaking information to make you better complete your lineup. There's both a free version and a pro version. All right, Michael, enough of this chit-chat. Let's get into DraftKings and complete the rest of our cash lineup.
Okay, Eric, here we are. We got exactly 23,400 remaining, so a little over 4,500 per player. So we got to spend it wisely. I'm going to spend a few bucks right out of the gate because I think we really like running backs who can get their hands on the ball in the passing game as well in this PPR DraftKings. And so we're going to go at 6,700 with Alvin Kamara going up against this horrible Carolina defense. Hey, let's face it. Alvin Kamara last year, if you had him on your fantasy league, he overperformed because he was so involved in the passing game. In some weeks, like no one else. I think everybody expected him to have a down year last year, but I think they realized very quick that Derek Carr is good to his running backs. And you're going to get more of the same this year, especially going up against the 25th ranked defense in the league. Yeah, look what Kamara has done. He did kind of throughout the season last year, especially in the passing game, consistently 5, 6, 8, 10, 12 targets, and converted those into lots and lots of fantasy points, especially middle of the season, up in the 20s over and over again. And I think he'll do that again against New Orleans. Look what he did against New Orleans last year, a couple of times.
Against who?
I'm sorry, against Carolina.
Carolina, yeah.
13.5 points there in week 14. And then a little earlier in the season, a good week as well.
All right. One of the biggest concerns I have in season long about Alvin Kamara is what's going to happen with Kendre Miller, who missed a lot of last year. Is he going to take some of his workload? We don't have to worry about that in week 1. He's already injured again. So this backfield is all to his own. And 6,700. I like how you said we have to be wise about how we spend our money. And you just plop down $6,700. All right, I'll show you wise at wide receiver. We do need to save some money, but we got a little gold here in Cincinnati. Yes, we know that Jamar Chase is the number 1 wide receiver, and the number 2 is T. Higgins. And you know who normally the number 3 is? Tyler Boyd. Well, guess what? Tyler Boyd is gone. So the guy that is taking his spot and has earned a starting role on this team as a second-year wide receiver is Andre Josephus. Now, I want you no one's opinion matters more, Michael, than Joe Burrow. This is what Joe Burrow said about Andre. Andre is going to have a big year. I am really excited at how he is coming along. In addition to the relationship that he has built with Joe Burrow, I love this game environment. Cincinnati playing at home should really beat up on New England. They have an implied total of 26.5 points. And $3,000, Michael, really opens up our opportunities to do some interesting things, which we've already done in relation to this lineup.
Yeah, no, I like the price tag a lot. If you watched him last year, when he got involved, he was a big part of it. If you watched him at Princeton, I mean, hey, anybody goes to Princeton's got it up here in the head. He was a special talent, coming out of, I think, high school in Honolulu where he played. He's 6'3", 212 pounds. He's a beast. And this is obviously a price tag that is hard to avoid. Allows us to make sure we get a stronger quarterback, but we're not going to pay up too much. We're going to go down and get a guy who's a dual threat in Anthony Richardson at $6,300. He did have a tough game against Houston last year in that he didn't throw the ball a whole lot. But what he was able to do is get in the end zone a couple of times. And he is really a threat with his legs. I think that Indianapolis is going to let him run, loose. I think that's how he's going to be effective in the NFL. And so, unlike some quarterbacks who don't have the size that he has, you really can't put him out there, but you can with this guy. And that's what he's going to be able to produce. And he's, he was kind of considered one of the top 2, dual threat athletes. And that's really what you get with Richardson. Look what he did in just, 3 weeks before he got hurt in that week 5. Obviously coming off an injury that knocked him out the rest of the season. But all reports are that he's healthy. And so this price tag is actually really nice for one of the best dual threats in the league.
Dual threat and how, Michael? This guy has such a strong arm. He had a 60% completion percentage, and it wasn't just dumping it off, because his average was 11.5 per completion. And of course, everyone knows how dangerous he is with his legs. We know the problem. The problem is he's had such a small sample size. 2 of his 4 games, he didn't complete. he got injured. But boy, was he impressive in those 2 games. He was healthy. And we want to attack. We talked about how you want to attack the Miami-Jacksonville game. I think this Houston-Indianapolis game at 48.5 over under, again, a small spread, has shootout potential written all over it. And I definitely like getting the quarterback. So, boy, do we need to save some money here, Michael, at $3,700. Now, the good news is that we do still have the defense. Let's go to wide receivers again. What would I say to you if I said that, yeah, we can still afford a wide receiver playing in an offense with one of the league's best quarterbacks, who arguably will be the number one wide receiver? Who am I talking about? At $4,700, I'm talking about Ladd McConkey. So you guys, if you've been falling asleep and you're like, what are you talking about? I thought Keenan Allen was the lead receiver. No, he's gone. I thought Mike Evans might be the lead receiver. No, he's gone. And a huge amount of targets is freed up because Austin Eckler is gone. So they drafted Ladd McConkey in very beginning of the second round, 34th overall. And his only competition is Joshua Palmer. So I think he is going, and Palmer's $500 more. So we appreciate the $500 savings in getting McConkey in our lineup.
Yeah, and the Raiders defense obviously has been much better than they began the season at. But they still have some weaknesses in the defensive backfield. That's the place to attack him. And so even though there will be pressure on the quarterback, who will be inclined to get the ball out in a PPR league like this, that's going to be a good thing for a guy as speedy and as mobile as Ladd McConkey. Got some real potential there. That doesn't leave us a whole lot for defense. We could go with the Jags going up against Miami, a prolific offense, but we can also get Houston going up against the Indianapolis Colts, who, we just talked about Richardson. I think he can prove to be a challenge. And to be fair, last year, Indianapolis did give Houston some challenge in terms of fantasy points, but not in terms of win totals. This Houston defense, I think, has ended up proving to be as good as advertised last year. They focused mostly on the defensive side in the draft, have gotten better even on the offensive side. This team, some people think they are Super Bowl bound this year. They really are the favorites to win their division, which bodes really well for this Houston defense kind of all season long. And starting with this first week, which, Richardson might struggle a little bit. I don't think that necessarily brings his fantasy points down, but it does help the Houston Texans defense out. So I like this pick at $2,700.
I do as well. And I just want to be clear. This is a cash lineup. There is nothing wrong with a cash lineup where you want a high floor, having a quarterback and this opponent defense in your same lineup. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it in GPP, but really nothing wrong with that in cash. Now, I just want to point out a couple of bargains that if you're like, hey, I really wanted to pay up somewhere, you wanted to adjust this lineup and pay up. As much as I like Evan Ingram, there are some other bargains at tight end. So you could pick up $900 if you want to go with Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts is at home. This is a new Atlanta team, folks. Arthur Smith is gone, and so is their crappy quarterbacks. Kirk Cousins is there, and I think, man, if we're ever, Michael, going to unleash the talent of Kyle Pitts, you would think it would be this year with Kirk Cousins.
Hey, I got a Marcus Mariota on the phone right here. He said, didn't you watch the quarterback show? He was there with Kirk Cousins on the same time, and he's a little bit disappointed that you called him crappy. No, let's be fair. Like, Kyle Pitts is an absolute stud, and the quarterbacks that have been there have not been good to their tight ends. You know who's good to tight ends? Kirk Cousins is really good to tight ends. And so I think this is going to be, some people think he could be the number one. Obviously, London's got more speed than he does, but some people think that Pitts could be the number one target guy this year. for Atlanta. I know he's been a disappointment to a lot of fantasy owners that have had him throughout seasons. You and I have both been there. But I like that bargain. And yes, it allows you to do other things. You could look at maybe Allen, who we're going to talk about in just a minute, at the quarterback position. So I like that. It's a good bargain.
And the last thing I'd say is a quick comment about Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz is only at $3,600. So that's almost $1,900 savings off Ingram. And with Ertz, you get a tight end that's reunited with his old head coach, Cliff Kingsbury. He's listed on the depth chart ahead of Ben Sinnott. So he is the starting QB for now for week one. And that's all we care about week one. And with Jaden Daniels as the rookie QB, I think he's going to rely on his safety valve tight end, which is part of the Commander offense. And Tampa Bay actually does a terrible job of defending tight ends, 31st on DraftKings scoring.
Very good.
All right, so that is our DraftKings cash lineup. Let's switch over to FanDuel. All right, here on the FanDuel site, one thing I want to make sure we're clear on is FanDuel actually opened up the Sunday night game, very high-scoring game, the Rams and Lions, as a part of the main slate. Now, when I look at quarterback, there is no Jalen Hurts, there is no Lamar Jackson, and there is no Pat Mahomes. So the clear best quarterback, especially given his great matchup, is Josh Allen. It just becomes a question of, can you afford him? In my opinion on DraftKings is you cannot afford not to play Josh Allen because they priced up the other guys. CJ Stroud, Joe Burrow, Anthony Richardson are $700, $800, and $900 less. So you don't have to go up much to go to Josh Allen. So look, I don't need to talk much about Josh Allen. You know what he does. He is a good passer, but what makes him really special is what he does with his legs. Not just the 47 yards a game that he averages rushing. Michael, I looked it up in the Bills playbook. It's a no cook zone when it comes into the close to the end zone. I mean, James Cook is just taken out of the offense when they get close to the goal line. That's why Josh Allen had 11 rushing TDs. That's not a fluke. That's a part of the game plan, and that gives him such an unbelievable floor. Throwing, like I said, 28 implied total, home favorite. Man, I love it. I love this pick. I love that we can sneak him in.
Yeah, and going up against an Arizona defense that has been somewhat porous, and should score some more points this year, which means that Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills, who got to win this first game, this would be a really bad loss for them, are going to do whatever it takes, right out of the gate. Eric, I'm going to spend a few dollars at the running back position, but I'm not going to go with the guys right here at the top. Because, well, you spend so much money on quarterback. That's part of it. But the other reason is because we can get a guy who he was actually fourth in rushing last year. I don't know if you knew that. James Conner. Let's stick with that same game. He's only $6,100 going up against, a tough Buffalo Bills defense. So that's part of the reason why he's priced down. But he was a huge part of their offense last year. Yeah, they got a good backup running back. A lot of people are worried about that. But James Conner produces. I mean, again, look what he did last year in terms of average rushing yards during the season. Had several really strong fantasy games, especially towards the end of the season. If you had him in your fantasy playoffs, he probably helped you win some games there. He's a tough character. Again, I think there's some concern about longevity throughout the season, but like you've said multiple times today, we're in week one. Let's not worry about that. Let's enjoy the price tag for a clear bell cow back who is going to get involved in this offense. What do you think?
Yeah, I like it. Look how he gets involved in the passing game too. And that could be a situation where Arizona falls a little behind. So yeah, like you said, I'm not worried about Trey Benson, not in week one from the rookie. So All right, so we gotta be serious here and save some money, because where are we at in price here? If you scroll up, we're can only use 4,600, so I am going to use 5,100 at wide receiver to get Brian Thomas. By getting rookies, they're just underpriced on these in week one. Brian Thomas has earned a starting spot against Christian Kirk. Again, love attacking the Miami-Jacksonville game. I expect a lot of scoring. Remember, Calvin Ridley is gone and all those red zone targets. Christian Kirk has been hobbled all preseason with a bad calf. So we'll see. He may still play, but will he be at 100%? So he's going to get every opportunity to shine. The only other player is a pretty inconsistent at times, Gabe Davis. So I like Brian Thomas at this price.
Yeah, no, like you say, rookies are underpriced early on in the season. Yeah, just a reminder here on FanDuel, this 5,100 price tag is low. He's a young buck, man. He is 21 years old still. If you watched LSU play last year, he was a stud. Jalen Daniels really liked him. I think he earned the number one spot, the other number one spot on the receiving corps for a reason. I'll see your $5,100 Brian Thomas and go with another arguably number one. You talked about his counterpart, Lad McConkey. It's Joshua Palmer, who I think is who we would believe to be the number one. And so they may be fighting over number one, going up against, we already talked about this Raiders defensive backfield. They're not that strong. Hey, let's face it. When there was a period of time when Keenan Allen and Mike Williams were out, and look what Joshua Palmer did during those weeks when he wasn't fighting as much for targets and receptions. He scored a lot of points, has a lot of potential. Not going to take the lid off. I mean, I don't think you're going to see, you're probably not going to get 25 points out of him. But I think that you can feel confident with the changes that have happened in San Diego that this $5,000 price tag will prove to make a lot of sense.
Michael, they called and they've now moved to LA.
I'm sorry. Yeah. I'll never let go of the San Diego Chargers because it's a little bit crazy that San Diego let go of them.
All right. Well, no, I like that. Basically, what we did, folks, is we played with the FanDuel and DraftKings pricing, right? Palmer was the cheaper one relation to McConkey on FanDuel, and McConkey was the cheaper one on DraftKings. All right, so this leaves us just with a defense. And we've got a couple different options that we can choose. Basically, if you're new to this channel, our philosophy on defense is there's a ton of volatility. So we almost never want to pay up at the defense position. But we look at the lower part of the salary range and see, is there anyone that we feel good about? And I feel good at 3,600. Okay. Michael's reminding me, we don't feel really good about Arizona, the Patriots, Carolina, and the Rams, basically because they're facing great offenses. But from a game script perspective and an ineptness of their opponents on offense, let's go with the Atlanta Falcons. They are a home favorite. They're playing a Pittsburgh team that lost out on the Brandon Ayuk sweepstakes. So FYI, it's still just Pickens. That's the only quality wide.
Slim Pickens.
It is Slim Pickens, Michael. Look at you. Russell Wilson, I think you're not going out on a limb to say that his better days are behind him. So I kind of like this. If you go to the game log, we kind of see a little bit of what the Atlanta defense did. They had a couple games they kind of bounced, got some pressure on the quarterback. So I'm okay with the Falcons at this price.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think Steelers, if they're going to have a okay season. It's going to take a while and probably a quarterback change to to what you're saying there. And yeah, you're right. I mean, at the wide receiver position, it's tough. And Jalen Warren's out this week as well. And so, it's a good time to be picking against the Steelers. So let's do it. Say we have $100 to spare. I think that was a pretty efficient use of our money.
Yeah, I would just throw in here. I'm not going to give you all the reasons. You can check the DraftKings section for it. But Zach Ertz is $4,800 here on FanDuel. That is $1,400 savings on Evan Ingram. So if you feel like you got to spend a little bit more money and you want to, and you need $1,400, that is a possible pivot.
Yep, no, that's a good one.
All right, so that is our FanDuel lineup. We want to hear from you guys, though, folks. Please remember, go into the comment section. Tell us who your favorite DraftKings player or your favorite FanDuel player for week 1 on the main slate, and be sure to tell us the reasons why. Really great, Michael, doing the show again with you. I'm looking so forward for 2024. Until next time, when we start talking about week 2 in NFL DFS, take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
We'll put 2 videos on the screen we think you'll enjoy.